So if you've jumped on my long version video, thank you so much for being here. As I said in my little intro there, in my shorts, this is about why I'm done with being burnt out over 40 and why I'm breaking free from everything, because I want to make that change and I am making that change. I've started an online business. It happens to be in a passion of mine, which I think why it doesn't feel like it's a chore or a business as such, although I do treat it like one, in travel, because I absolutely live for my time away from work. I live for the fact of exploring. I love traveling, whether that's going around the UK, going to different places that I've never seen or experienced before, or whether that's jumping on a plane and going to somewhere warm where I've never been before. I always try to go somewhere different because there's so many places, around the world that I just want to go and see and experience, and I think it literally is that change of scenery that really does do you the world of good. So like I say, it doesn't matter if it's the UK or abroad, but obviously going abroad for me, the heat, the warmth, I don't know about you, but as you get older, you start to feel aches and pains in places you never thought you would have them. I do have injuries from nursing. So when I was dealing with patients and having to maneuver patients, yes, you have manual handling, and yes, you practice the correct way to how to maneuver a patient and bending and lifting, but over time it's wear and tear. And as you are a human and not a robot, you're not a machine, it will take effect. It's going to grind you, like grind your bones is what it feels like. I'm not a very tall person. And when you're dealing with people that lose confidence and you're transferring them from a bed to a wheelchair, or a bed to a commode, or you're moving them off a trolley onto a bed, or vice versa, you're dealing with a lot of weight there. And I think over time it really does just it just messes up with your joints. I feel it does with me anyway. So I understand my limits. I respect the fact that I've only got one back, which is why I stepped away from nursing. I stopped doing it because I just could not do it anymore. I just can't be on my feet for long. I can't stand for long. I have to sit down quite a lot, quite regularly. I hate being in that position because I've always been very physically active. Ever since I was 16, initially, the first thing I did, there was two things I did on my 16th birthday. Here's a little fun fact. When I was 16, I opened my first bank account and I joined the gym. And when I was 16, I was living in London at the time. So I wasn't living in where I come from, which is originally in Wales, South Wales in the UK. So I was living in London, not through choice, but that's another story. So my mother brought us to London to live. She got remarried and things. And so I always loved fitness. I always loved being physically active. I was always like, when you're a kid, you'd go out and play. Back in the 80s, I'd go out and play on my bike. I was quite tomboyish. I had a skateboard. I would build ramps to either go on my skateboard, or I would build ramps to go see how far I could jump, the distance and how high on my bike. The amount of times I came off them, hurt myself, cut myself, you name it. So that's probably not helped over time as well. But yeah, I lost my train of thought. See, this is typical of menopause. My train of thought goes as well. So when I was living in London, I turned 16. I literally went out on my 16th birthday. I opened my first bank account, which I don't actually have anymore, but I opened my first bank account, and then I went and joined the gym. And it just so happened the gym that I joined was the very same gym that Arnold Schwarzenegger, the actor, actually used to train to become, I think it was Mr. Universe. Please don't quote me on that if I'm wrong, but do your research. But I know he was massive into bodybuilding before he became an actor, because he used to live in London. That's a bit of an information thing there for you. So he was actually, I think he was like renting a room in London at the time. And so he basically bulked up in this gym. So it kind of made me think about things about how important life was and fitness and your body at the time. And I just always went to the gym. And I was a bit of a gym bunny. But when I got then to my late 20s, by then I took on my first management job, which was very stressful. And at the time, I had to work to very tight deadlines, because I had to deal with a lot of complaints that would come in from customers, which meant that I didn't always finish on time. So instead of going to the gym, because my gym kit was in the car ready to go to the gym after working a shift, I'd end up having to stay on a good few hours to try and get something resolved, a complaint resolved. So unfortunately, I basically let that take over my personal life, which I shouldn't have done. Massive mistake. And then I fell out of the routine. I can't even believe I was saying this, and I did let it happen, but I did. I fell out of the routine of working out. I also used to be into kickboxing in my early 20s. I also did karate in my teens. So I was always into like physical something or other. I like martial arts. I love watching martial arts. I have a lot of respect for it. And then in my early 20s, as I say, I used to do kickboxing, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. When I used to go, it was fantastic. Such an amazing workout. Mentally as well, it was great for your head to get any form of frustrations out for the day or the week. Like, literally punching and kicking it, get it out your system. It was so good. And then fast forward in my 30s, training in nursing and mental health nursing, having to learn PBM, which is a form of restraint and protection when you could be dealing with patients who are very unwell, quite violent and aggressive. So you need to learn PBM, which is a form of being able to try and get out of situations if someone was to headlock you, someone was trying to strangle you, and so forth. And as I say, I'm not a very tall person, so you do have to have your wits about you. So I've had a lot of wear and tear in my body, which is why I had to give up nursing and then go back into a desk type job environment. So I'm very stationary now. So that doesn't help also with putting weight on, because I'm not moving around as much anymore. That certainly has impacted me. Plus, as you get older, especially when you get into your 40s, your metabolism slows right down. And with the menopause, you gain weight. Like I said before in other videos of mine, I'm also on HRT, have been on HRT now. It'll be 3 years as from next month. So continuously battling all sorts of elements, shall we say, with health, physicality issues and problems. So that's why I love going abroad. I love being in warm countries, warm climates. It doesn't have to be stifling hot, but it does have to be warm, something where you could wear a t-shirt and shorts to, it doesn't have to be scorching, but just mild enough to be able to wear that kind of clothing. But also with the warmth of the weather and having drier climates than here in Wales, where it rains quite a lot, I like the fact that I can go out later in the evening, like I can go outside and have my tea eating outside, I can have al fresco. And I think that's just such a nice, for me, exhilarating feeling. I also like going into hot tubs as well. One thing I like to do when I go away, if I stay somewhere in the UK, 9 times out of 10 I've booked somewhere with a hot tub, which does mean you do pay a bit more. But I really utilise the hot tub when I go away. I've actually been in the hot tub when it's raining, I actually went away once in March, and it was towards the end of March. So normally temperatures start to get a little bit better towards springtime here, but it still can be quite cold at times. And this one time, a couple of years ago, I went away to this cottage. I only booked for 2 nights, and it was beautiful. It was in the middle of Wales, in Powys. And this cottage was stunning. It was beautiful. It was in a very quiet location, up on a mountain hillside, and it actually started snowing. So it was very cold, being outside in all elements. I did go into the hot tub, but sadly I was also coming down with, I think I had like a virus or something at the time, and I was really unwell. Or was it COVID? I can't remember, but it was one of the two where I really was poorly, very flu-like symptoms. So unfortunately, I only managed to utilise it the once when I was there. Then I just ended up staying in bed for the duration. Hey ho, it's life, isn't it? I'm still here to live the tale, so there we go. But just to recap and go back onto what I wanted to do this video for you today. Like I said, I'm very much a great believer in breaking through the 9 to 5 grind to really transform my life, and it's exciting. Do you know what I mean? I really find it exciting. I'm just like, my gosh, I don't know where I'm going to be this time next year now. Things could really change, and I love that. I just think, wow, I've really changed a lot in myself. I wouldn't be able to do this 10 years ago, fact, because I was such a control person, like control freak. I do generally like to know everything. I'm very much planning and organising type person. I will plan and organise everything and anything that I can. However, as I've started to go through changes in life, as I've started going through the menopause, I've really chilled out a bit. So the thought of now creating this YouTube channel, not knowing where it's going to go, if it's going to go anywhere, whether it'll actually gain momentum the way I'd like it, whether I'll get that community of people that I really want, like-minded people like me. It's just so exciting. And I think, sorry if I'm looking around, I'm just, can't help it. So much distraction. I like people watching. That's one thing I like to do randomly. Random fact there. Creating this YouTube channel, finally doing it after many, many failed attempts where I think I'm going to do it. I might film one thing and then I don't do any more. But yet I've been so consistent this time round, and it's been 3 weeks tomorrow that I started my YouTube channel, and I've consistently done so far 10 videos in a row daily. I also upload shorts as well. I haven't even thought about working out editing. Everything I post is literally as is. There is no editing in it really. I just upload it. I speak and I upload. I'm doing my best with what I can do with a full-time job, online business, and I'm doing this as well. So I don't think I'm doing too badly. I digress. So I've got some notes here, which is why I keep looking down as well. I want to make sure I cover everything. So like I said, if you ever felt completely burnt out, like you've given everything to work, family and life, but you wondered, what about me? Then this is for you. This is about me hopefully motivating you in the right way, even making you even just think about what it is you really want in life, reevaluating things. As I said before, I'm old school. I like to write things down. I like to make lists of things. I like to plan. I like to organise. I write pros and cons for everything. If your current situation is really burning you out, and you're like me, where you're menopausal, you've got a lot of commitments going on, maybe family life is getting quite a lot, you maybe not getting enough support with your personal life, then I think you need to start thinking, right, okay, what can I do? What can I do? What action can I do? What can I change to make things better for me? Because ultimately, you're going to end up having a bit of a burnout situation that could be quite serious. And I think your mental health really will be affected if it hasn't done so already. My mental health was being affected because working in a 9 to 5 grind, like I said before, yes, I'm grateful to have a job. I know there's thousands of people out there who don't have jobs. However, it's not fulfilling. It's not fulfilling for me. It doesn't stimulate me in the way that I want it to mentally. I don't feel like I've got that good feeling factor in my tummy anymore. I don't feel like I've got that desire. It's just literally, I'm on the hamster wheel, and it's the same thing day in, day out, day in, day out. And it does nothing for me. It really does nothing for me. I'm very grateful that I'm on a really good team of people who I do really, really get on with. And we can have a giggle now and again, and that's great. And I appreciate that. I really do. However, financially, I'm barely making ends meet. I'm scraping it in terms of paying bills. I'm trying to battle through things. Yes, I talk about going away on holidays and stuff, but I tend to book everything like a year in advance. That's the only way I can afford to go anywhere, whether that's the UK or abroad. It literally has to be something at least a year in advance that I book, and I make monthly payments. That's the only way I can afford to do something. So this is why I just feel like it's time to change. It's time to take action. It's why I took action. I've started a business online in travel, and I just love it. I absolutely love it. I love the people I'm with. I love the community. I love the support. I love the training. I love the fact that I can pick and choose where I want to go. I can plan things, and it's just, I don't know, it's given me a new lease of life. That's the only way I can explain it. So, when I was working long hours and dealing with menopausal symptoms, I was feeling also invisible. My job took all my energy, and I had nothing left but my own dreams. And so, again, when I was thinking about how I was feeling and how I was stuck in this rut, that's why I decided that I need to do more. I knew that I'd always had this thing inside me as well to do YouTube. I'd had so many failed attempts in the past, but then I just thought, right, let's do it. I'm in a much better relationship situation now than I was before. I'm very happy with the person I'm with. We live together. So I get to come home to someone who I feel happy to be with, I think that's a massive thing as well. If you're stuck in a relationship where you're not happy anymore, you've either got to have that conversation, as horrible, as uncomfortable as it may feel. You've got to be real. You've got to decide, right, am I prepared to live with this individual for the rest of my life? Or am I going to do something about it and change it up? If it doesn't improve, then, something's got to break, isn't it? Something's got to go. I've walked away from a marriage before in the past. I was with that person for 7 years. I'm not here to slag that person off. I'm not that type of person. But things didn't work out, and it was the same repetitive situational problem that we continually went through, and that person did not fulfill what they promised they would do. So you get to the stage where you think, right, do I put up and shut up and just live with it and be miserable? Or do I make a change and I walk away? Well, yes, I walked away. It was the hardest decision I made in my life at that point. We had a dog. We rescued a puppy. And this is before I ended the marriage. So we rescued our dog, and he was a puppy, and, we didn't have any children, but I thought, right, let's, we both love dogs. I never was allowed to have a dog when I was growing up, but I really wanted to rescue a dog. So we finally got Leo, and we brought him up, and he was with us for 3.5 years. And the hardest thing for me, other than walking away and ending the marriage, was actually having to rehouse him. It's one of the hardest things I have ever had to do. It was actually the one thing that kept me in that marriage, because it was the thought of having to give him up, and it broke me. Leo, to me, although he's only a dog to people that don't like animals, for me, he was the closest thing of having a child. I've never had children. I've never been pregnant. I've never experienced that, unfortunately. So to have Leo, he was my boy. I talked to him like he was human. And he was very quirky. He had such an amazing personality. And I absolutely loved and adored that dog. I really did. And the thought of having to walk away from him, oh my goodness, it was so, so hard. And I know when I rehomed him, he went to a loving family who sadly had long lost a dog, and they wanted someone like Leo. And Leo was already trained. He loves retrieval. He's a water baby. He loved swimming, so he was always jumping in, the sea and whatever else. He had a really good life with us. And I know that the family that then took him were able to do the same. So for me, I was grateful for that. I was really grateful that those people came at the right time. But it broke my heart. It really broke my heart. And so, I've had to toughen up in a lot of ways. I had to. My mental health was really, really going downhill in that marriage. And again, it's made me really think about life since the pandemic. Being in this job now, I'm 45, I'm menopausal, and I just don't want to be in this rut again. I don't want my mental health to suffer again. And I feel like it was starting to go that way. So this is why I decided to take action. Quite a serious moment there. But like I said, I have to prioritize my health. Building a business in travel, it brings in an extra income for me. if I bring in extra money, it means I release the burden of feeling so stuck. It also helps me pay off my bills quicker. I'm so sorry, excuse me. It also helps me being able to pay my debt off sooner. It will give me the option and the what's the word I'm thinking at? It gives me variety. It gives me hope. It gives me something else to focus on other than what I'm having to think and feel when I go to work on the 9 to 5 grind every day, Monday to Friday. You know, it gives me that option of a way out. That's ultimately the goal for me. It's the way out and where I'm going with this. Because I know it's going to lift me, which it already has. I'm also in the process of creating digital products, which I'll also start selling online as well. And I'm surrounding myself with people that are chasing similar goals to me. That's my tribe, that's my vibe. People that all want to do better, all want to earn extra money, and also want to build something for themselves that they can feel proud of. And once it gets to a certain stage and level within the business, they can then have it willable. So then you can have a residual income that you can pass on to your family, loved ones, or whoever you choose. So for me, this is about rebuilding my life. It's about making a fresh start. And if you're ready to rebuild and create a freedom over 40, subscribe to my channel. Please join me here. Like, share, and reach out to me if you're interested. Put the comment ready on my video and I will respond to you within about 48 hours. On that note, thank you for your time again. But like I say, put yourself first, guys. Mental health, physical health, and then see where it leads you. Decide now. Take action. Decide what you're going to do and do it. Stop procrastinating, because life is going to life anyway. Life will continually life. Things will continually happen regardless. So you now need to do something about it if you're stuck in a rut. Need I say more? Anyway, thank you for your time. Thank you very much for watching right to the end of this video. Thank you. Take care. Stay blessed.